Attention! The Regenerator has destroyed the temple of time. I repeat, the Regenerator has destroyed the temple of time. The Jews' religion is over with. All sun-worshipping religions have ended, little children, and the real living Jesus wants you to know how his destroying of the temple of time is what makes it possible for one to find real life and real love for themselves. In this world, because of Death Satan's mind control, the general population is made to give great admiration and respect to death. And not only that, they are also made to be afraid of death and the witch. When the Regenerator came into the earth, he knew that when he found his kind, he would find them in a state of spiritual insanity because of the fear of death. When one looks around in this world, it doesn't take one long to find out how this world venerates and worships death. There are many writings, as you know, and many works of art that center around death. There are many ceremonies and rituals, holy days, whose very existence is because of death. Now, when I speak of the Regenerator entering into the earth, little children, I'm speaking of the body. And the body can be described in many ways. In this instance, I describe it as a time capsule. A time capsule. Except this time capsule did not contain any holy relics or ancient works or information for future historians or archaeologists to discover. No, but this particular time capsule only contained a sacred heart that was full of real love, the whole truth, and real life. And this sacred heart went about doing great deeds, performing great miracles, doing what simply defied explanation. Little children, the real Jesus was totally surrendered to the will and the desire of his heart. It's very important for you to understand that the real Jesus did not beat death by dying, but he beat death by living. You don't beat death by dying, little children, but you only beat death by living. And the real Jesus lived, healing his kind, restoring minds and hearts, bringing restoration of their state of mind so that they could be reconnected with the Creator within themselves. His giving of life was actually life to him. And remember, little children, it's because he was totally surrendered to the will and the desire of his heart. He did not honor the rules and the laws of men. He did not allow himself to give in to death's program, but he only gave in and surrendered to the one who sent him, the Creator in himself. And little children, the real Jesus had real faith. And that means that he did not go around with faith to try and keep a script. No, the real Jesus did not go about seeking to fulfill the law of Moses, but instead he came to fulfill the law of the heart. He came so that his heart might be complete, and that would only be done by his restoring his kind back to their original state. Now, real faith, little children, entails of one having their senses fully active. The real living Jesus had his spiritual senses fully activated so that they were firing on all cylinders. And this is what allowed him to be in perfect unity with the Creator. Everything about him was tuned in so that he was in unison with his Maker. This is known as the eternal covenant, the covenant of one. And the real Jesus, he revealed the covenant of one to his people, and they were relieved and amazed. Now, the real Jesus, having real faith, little children, was also real spiritual. And when you're real spiritual, you're one that can reveal infinite possibilities. That is all a part of the covenant of one. For infinite possibilities can be described in many ways. But what's an example of infinite possibilities? Well, the real Jesus revealed to his people the possibility that there is a world beyond theirs. The real Jesus revealed that there's a world beyond the world that we see with our eyes. That's one example of infinite possibilities. Now, a real-time example of this concerns my dad. Now, my dad was a decent man. He had passed away several years ago, but he was a decent man, a hardworking man, and he stuck to what he knew. And he provided for his family. He was not a religious man. He was not someone who would be considered an intellectual man, but he was a decent person. Well, my dad passed away, and at the time of his passing, I could only feel that my dad was still around. I could not explain it, but I knew that death, as presented in this world, was not the end. But I did not know what became of my dad. So several years passed, and I met a lady friend. And this lady friend was more sensitive to spirits than myself. And she could see the spirits of those who had long passed away. So one day, she told me something that was very amazing. She said that she had seen my dad, and she described him perfectly. And she said that she saw my dad walking in broad daylight with a smile on his face, wearing a white suit. Now that is an example of infinite possibilities, little children. Understanding that real love cannot die and that real life does not end. This is all related to the Creator within the covenant of one. Infinite possibilities, little children. Another example concerns my dear friend by the name of Joseph. We call him Joey. Now, Joey, he's still here in the flesh. He hasn't passed on. And at the time before we became friends, he was suffering from very severe panic attacks, so that he would have to be rushed to the hospital. They got so bad and were so frequent that you could count on Joey being rushed to the hospital every single month. Sometimes it would be several times in a week. That's how bad these panic attacks were. And then Joey met the Regenerator. And the Regenerator started to edify and build up Joey's heart. He started to restore Joey's heart faith and free his mind, spiritually speaking. And he started, and he didn't stop, but he kept on doing this throughout the years. And now, today, it makes me happy to say that Joey no longer has to be rushed to the hospital because of panic attacks. That is another example of infinite possibilities, little children. You understand that death, as presented in this world, is a phantom. When you open up to infinite possibilities because of real love, the whole truth, and real life, you understand that you ought not be afraid of death or the witch. Concerning the real Jesus and his operation in the time of the Jews' religion, you have to remember how this world is ruled by images. And it was no different in that day with his people under the Jews' religion. Little children, the real Jesus knew, being full of wisdom that transcends time and space, he knew that his people had an image in their mind of what real love looked like. He knew they had an image in their mind concerning its nature. And he knew that in order for their mind to be freed from death's grip, he would have to break that image. Now keep in mind, the real Jesus is from the real world. And his presence alone is what reveals the untrue nature of this world. The real Jesus came amongst his people, little children, and they saw that he was nothing like they had imagined. They saw that he was not an image keeper. He didn't keep up with their image. In fact, he was one who broke their image. He went against it. That means that the real Jesus, little children, is an image breaker. He's an image breaker and not an image keeper. As he went about revealing against the desire and will of death and the witch, he went about revealing that their world was a dream world, a digital simulation, and that its rules and laws only applied to their body and not their person. And this is what started to burn the witch. As the real Jesus, the image breaker, burned the religious and scientific communities as he went against their practices and theories, as he burned their books. This caused the witch herself to burn. And this created a great disruption in Death Satan's world, because the real Jesus did not conform to any of their laws or rules, spiritually speaking. In fact, the real Jesus only took himself seriously. And when I say that he only took himself seriously, I speak of the Creator in him. Little children, when it comes down to finding out what real love is all about, when it comes to the discovery of real faith, one cannot take the witch seriously. One cannot take this world seriously, not when it comes to the heart. No, but it's just as Jesus did. The real Jesus revealed that you ought not take that image in the mirror so seriously. But the only thing you should really take seriously is the will and the desire of the Creator inside of yourself. Now, little children, remember, you only beat death by living and not by dying. They tell you that one day after you die, then you'll be in heaven and you'll have all of the answers about life. But the real Jesus, he reveals that that's not true. That death cannot tell you anything about life. Death cannot reveal anything to you when it comes to the truth or when it comes to real love. No, but life is the only thing that can do it. Little children, the real Jesus, his brilliance, his love, his wisdom, his peace, it transcends time and space. And you have to keep in mind, because the real Jesus transcends time and space, he cannot be contained in any book in this place. But the only place that he will live is in a world of infinite possibilities. A world where death has no rule. Now, as has been previously shared with you, death was allowed to rule in this world through coercion. And the real Jesus, his mission involved taking away death's rule. After all, he was there when the law of Moses was given. That should tell you that he can also disallow that very law. He was there when this world was made. And that should tell you that he's also able to take control of that very world. And that's what he set out to do, using a strategy that only the brilliant mind of the real Jesus could come up with. We know it as a reverse hack technique, because keep in mind, in that day, you had many imitators, and they were all under the rule of one organization. And in that day, it's called and was known as the Council of Sand. And this Council of Sand had high priests who knew that whenever the real Jesus showed up, that it would spell their end. So they had spies sent out, because they thought in their insanity they could somehow stop him. So the Council of Sand sent out many spies, many priest, scribe, magicians, who would try and ensnare the real Jesus in words and the real Jesus in his brilliance, having already foreseen all of these things well before he even entered into the earth, knew that in order to efficiently and successfully destroy the powers of darkness and taking away the rule of death, he needed one of the enemy's own. In the real world, we call them the Joker of chaos. He needed a Joker of chaos, little children. In the simulation is codenamed Judas the Scary Cat. So he picked this individual as one of his followers, even though he knew he was really an enemy. And this Joker of chaos, being a child of the vine, full of insanity, taking on whatever identity the witch gave him, he would try and mimic the real Jesus in the flesh. And this Joker, he would attempt to try and slow the real Jesus down. Well, the real Jesus knew that this Joker was Death Satan's weak link. He could trust this Judas to lead him to the very center of Death's machine. And that's just what happened. He got to the core of Death's machine, and he was able to successfully and effectively take away the ability of death to hypnotize his people. Because when it comes to the reality of this world and what rules it, little children, you have to remember that the world is ruled by an image, and there's got to be something making the image, and that is known as the image maker, what you call the moon. So the real Jesus, he entered into the core of this image making device, and he successfully and effectively neutralized the witch's ability to bring his people under her hypnosis. And you may have been told now that the Council of Sand has made up a story to contradict the real Jesus. And this is what he reveals about the Council of Sand, little children. Because the Council of Sand, they are the ones that reinforce Death, Satan, and the witch's rule. They'll say things such as how the scriptures are their history. They'll present death as being final, and they'll tell you that your body is the temple of God. And they love to tell you that love died. But the real Jesus reveals that this is a digital simulation after revealing that heart faith had been hijacked. And the real Jesus also reveals that you are not your body, but that your body is really just a temple of time. And that means in the real living world, little children, the whole truth of life is that the real Jesus, he did not bow down to death. He did not give in to the witch. He did not die. But the whole truth of life is that death was beaten, and that the real Jesus burned the witch. My king does not bow down to death. Instead, death bows down to my king. Little children, in destroying the temple of time, the real Jesus revealed to his people that they were greater than that image that they saw in the mirror. You're greater than what you see in that mirror, little children. And as he revealed these things, he became the master over time. All of time, little children, is happening at the same time. And the real Jesus, he revealed this to his people. And that's what I'm telling you right now. He's telling you that you don't have to be controlled by the past, and you don't have to be controlled by the scriptures. You don't have to be ruled by the history of this simulated life, but you can stand. He's telling you it's okay to allow yourself to live. He's saying you don't have to let yourself be bullied into submission by death, Satan, and the witch. But you can take a stand for life by burning the book, because it was revealed to you that they made the Bible to destroy my people. And he's telling you to live and to come to the place of wholeness. He's telling you, recognize that the real Jesus has destroyed the temple of time right here in the present. It's all happening right now, little children. Yes, faith was hijacked, but now real faith is being restored. Yes, this is the digital simulation, but now the sim is being phased out. And yes, you are not your body, but your real body. It shines brighter than the sun. This has been a special report from the voice of truth, the sound and spirit of real love.